Good morning, everybody. It's Dr. Rick Wallace here coming to you this Tuesday morning. Hope everything's going great so far. Hope you've gotten your week off to a good start. I'm hoping that you've got your day off to a good start today. I'm going to stop by briefly to share something with you, hopefully give you some insight on some ways that you can not only help yourself be in a better mindset, a better frame of mind to do things and to accomplish those things in life that you're looking to accomplish, but also be in a better position to help others develop the right and proper mindset to do exceptional and extraordinary things, especially our children, because you play a major role in this particular area of life as far as child development is concerned. So I'm going to talk to you about it briefly. The title mentions Psycho-cybernetics, and basically it's taking a systematic digital or electronic concept and applying it to an organic function. Basically, cybernetics is cybernetics represents some type of set of system that has the capacity to understand a set measured principle, determine when that particular set mark or set principle or set number or whatever set pattern is deviated from, dictate the measure of deviation, and make auto corrections. A good example of a cybernetic system is your thermostat at your home. When you set your thermostat at your home, say you set it on 70, as long as it stays on 70, nothing will happen. But for instance, if it's a cold day and you have the heat set on 70 and the temperature begins to drop, once the temperature begins to drop, the system automatically senses it, determines what the deviation is. If it's 5 degrees, it makes a determination on the deviation and makes a correction. So in other words, it turns the heating unit back on until it gets back to whatever the set degrees is. A autopilot system on a jetliner is the same way. It sets a pattern, and when you turn on the autopilot system on a jetliner, if the plane is going from New York to Los Angeles, it's set. However, a number of different things can knock the plane off of course. You can run into turbulence, you can have high winds, whatever the situation is. But what happens is the system automatically, without any prompting from the pilot, automatically corrects itself. And it does this over and over again until you reach the point to where the pilot will take over the controls in order to land the plane. And you have a cybernetic system inside of you. It's called your self-concept or your self-image. In other words, how you view yourself, how you see yourself is a part of your programming. You've been programmed. I've told you before that if you're not spending and investing time and effort into programming yourself, life is programming you, because your subconscious is consistently open. While you can guard and protect to a certain instance what your conscious receives and accepts, if you are in an earshot of something, your subconscious hears it, even when you don't. Things that you pass by and see, you don't even perceive. That's a lot of ways how some of the major con games are run, is by pre-auto suggestion, by putting things in front of the person that they're going to eventually, that's the mark that they'll eventually con. It may be a setup of weeks of just putting certain images in front of them, because while they don't pay attention to it, the subconscious does. And so when they move in to do the con, there are just certain predetermining factors that they're able to set out based on what they presented to the subconscious. Well, when you're talking about psycho-cybernetics, what you're talking about is the self-image. The self-image basically is how we perceive ourselves, how we look at ourselves, and that is determined by the information that we have on ourselves and how we interpret it. Now, the information comes in a number of ways. We observe ourselves. We look at what we do. We look at what we're capable of doing. We also observe thanks, Craig. Craig Samuels says, check out Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And that what happens is when you get an image of yourself, you get those from what we call primary label givers. Initially, your primary label givers early in life are going to be your parents, maybe your grandparents, and again, when you move into school years, your teachers are going to be primary label givers because you spend so much time around them, and you assign a certain level of authority to teachers, and so what they have to say about you carries weight. Your peers are also going to be secondary label givers. What your peers, people you look at as equals, think about you will also have an impact on your perception. The problem is we grew up in a society where we have a lot of broken people. We grew up in a society where most people don't feel good about themselves. There's a lot of self-hatred, and we're not just talking about amongst the black collective. We're talking about period. A lot of people don't feel good about who they are. Well, if a person doesn't feel good about who they are, there's no possible way that they can actually invest anything positive into anyone around them. So if you have a broken parent, then you're going to have a child who is being fed negative information about themselves, a child that's not being nurtured, a child that's not being invested in elevating and lifting a person up. And so that child may take on some information and programming that is the fault of the parent, that it does not necessarily apply to them. And so what you have is a child who has low self-esteem, a child who suffers from inferiority complexes, a child that doesn't think very highly of themselves. Well, now you're dealing with a confidence issue because of low self-esteem, because of the inferiority complex. The child doesn't have confidence. So now when there's opportunity to step out, say, okay, he likes football, but he won't go out for the football team. Or she likes cheerleading, being active, but she won't go out for gymnastics or the cheerleading squad because of the self-confidence. She'll consistently find herself in situations where there's opportunity, but she won't act on the opportunity because the inferiority complex associated with our self-concept. Now, let me explain how this works when it comes to cybernetics and why it's so important that if you have issues with your self-image, that you work on that, and that you also make sure that you're not negatively impacting anyone's self-image around you, especially your children. What happens with your self-image? You ever seen people that may be struggling in school? They get poor grades. All of a sudden they go work with somebody, a tutor or whatever, and a tutor drills them on that information that they're going to be engaging in a test. There's this test coming up and they want to dwell on this test. So mom hires a tutor. They get this tutor and they're out there and the tutor's going with them 2 or 3 times a week. They're studying, they're cramming all this information in it, and they do absolutely exceptional on the test. And then you turn around, but at the end of the semester, they still got a below average grade or a failing grade. Why? Because cybernetics auto-corrected. You changed courses, but you didn't change the programmed pattern. In other words, cybernetics works on a programmed pattern. Your thermostat in your home, the autopilot system, is on a set pattern. In order to change how that system responds, you have to change the pattern. Well, if in your mind you perceive yourself as being intellectually challenged, you're going to perform as a person who's intellectually challenged. Now, someone can come along with you and do some things with you that will make you change your habits, studying more, taking in more information, and you'll do well on a test. Why? Because you changed your habits for that. But what will happen is when you change your habits and you start behaving a certain way, if you have not changed how you feel about yourself, your system will actually, your mind will actually auto-correct your behavior. Why? Because we as humans, in order to maintain our sanity, actually have to perpetuate actions and behavior and habits that are in parallel and correspondence to what we think about ourselves. That's important. I mean, we are going to prove how we feel about ourselves through our actions. We're going to do it. It is a subconscious act. It is automatic. I tell you, I've said it before, I said it again. When you are not programming yourself, when you're not invested in being the one who is controlling the programming, and the wonderful thing about this, though, is you can consistently program and reprogram. You're growing, you're progressing. A good example is Craig Samuels. You're not going to find Craig Samuels where he is now 6 months from now, because he's continuously taking on new information, readjusting his thinking, growing as a person, growing as a teacher, growing as a student, growing in life, period. And you can see it. You can see it from the first time I met him to the time today. And I see that in a number of other people. I see it in Will Williamson. I see it in Ava. And a number of other people. I mean, Autumn Raw, my boy, Michael Jordan, people that I'm around. You see, anybody that's investing in themselves and wanting something better out of life are going to be in a situation where they're consistently reprogramming themselves, adjusting the paradigms through which they view life and which they live life. Well, the first setting and structure of your paradigm system, the paradigms that basically govern your behavior, govern how you interpret things, is your self-image. And if you want to change the outcome of your life, you start with shifting your paradigms, which means you're shifting the way that your self-image is programmed, and you have to go in and you have to reevaluate it. And that's the important thing. In other words, you look at what you're thinking about yourself, and it takes into how you view yourself. It takes into how you view your performances, how you view your activity in life. But a great deal of it is looking at reflected appraisals. What are reflected appraisals? Reflected appraisals are the appraisals of other people. What other people, not only what other people think of you, but what you think other people think of you also has an impact on your self-concept or self-image. And so you have to start reevaluating yourself, and you have to start giving, while you shouldn't ignore other people's opinions in assessing you, because there may be some good, strong critiques that you need to be aware of so that you can search yourself introspectively to determine that. But you should be basing most of what you think about yourself on your design. Look at yourself. Look at what you're capable of. Not what you've done to this point, but what you're capable of. Take the limitations off. Believe that there are no limitations and start to act like there are no limitations. And you will automatically start to see yourself do things that in the past you didn't even attempt to do because you had already assumed that it was impossible. You will find that when you determine within yourself that you're going to do something and you believe in your mind that you can do it, it will be done if you simply apply persistence and perseverance. And so what we have to look at is when we're going after things, when we're looking at things, we have to first understand that if we want something consistently different than what we've been getting, then we have to change the pattern or the programming of our subconscious mind, and first and foremost, our self-concept or self-image. We have to change that. Why? Because your self-image is going to dictate your self-esteem. It's going to dictate your self-confidence. It's going to determine whether or not you're struggling with other areas of subpar interpretation and influence, such as self-hatred. Those things are extremely important. So what you do is you start at the foundation. You can't build anything of any substance on a shabby or broken or a cracked foundation. So what you've got to do is you've got to determine within yourself that I'm going to deal with this. And there's a lot of people that I talk to, that I deal with on a consistent basis, that will have a mindset that is not conducive to achieving some of the things that they say they want in life. So we can sit up and talk about the habits all day, because you ultimately will become what you do habitually. The problem is, if you're doing something habitually because somebody gave it to you to do, and you're developing these habits, what will happen if you change the habit, but you don't change the mind, is that you'll have the new habit until you hit a very trying or disturbing moment, time, some catastrophe, some jarring event, and you will automatically revert back to what the mind, because the mind will take over and you will begin to do that which you instinctively believe you are and what you're capable of. But if you change the mind, the person doesn't necessarily have to set you up with the habits. If you change your mind, if you change your self-concept, your self-image, if you change what you think, you will automatically begin to perpetuate the habits and the behavior of that which you believe. It's a part of your natural psychological process. You will perpetuate the behavior of that which you perceive yourself to be. It's absolutely necessary to maintain sanity. So you have to, first of all, convince yourself that you're someone different. Convince yourself that you deserve something different. Convince yourself that you are capable of having something different. Now you're starting to operate in a new realm. You're starting to see yourself differently. You're starting to develop confidence in yourself based on how you now perceive yourself. You are responsible for programming you. As a child, that's your parents' responsibility. But once you become an adult, you can no longer continue to blame mommy and daddy for where you're at. You can no longer continue to blame teachers, your situation, racism, and all of the other things that are out there that are moving against you for where you're at. You are where you're at because of who you are. You're who you are because of how you think. And if you want to change that, change how you think. Am I saying you just walk up there and say, hey, I'm new, I'm different, this is who I am, and it just works? No, but you got everything you need. Consistently every day, breathe into yourself a new life. Tell yourself, I'm capable. I'm built for this. I am a brilliant manager of money. I am a developer of wealth. I am grateful for the wealth that will continuously come my way. All of these positive affirmations are planting seeds in your subconscious that in time will take hold. And no matter how far-fetched it may seem initially, if you continuously feed the subconscious the same specific thing, it will convert it to fact and truth, no matter how false it may be. So you can take anything and turn it into your reality by consistently feeding yourself, your subconscious, affirmations, positive affirmations of what you do. One of the best ways to fight off fear, positive affirmations. I'm going to win. I'm going to beat this. I'm going to be successful. This business is going to do great. And I mean, no matter what happens to the business, I'm going to be successful. No matter what happens to this particular situation, I'm going to be wealthy. No matter what happens, I'm going to be at the top of my field. No matter what happens, I mean, continuously. In other words, you're telling yourself that there's no circumstance that can come along in your life that is going to be able to knock you out of the box. Now, some things will come along and shake you. Some things will come along and jar you. Some things will come along and cause delay. But delay is not denial. Delay does not mean denial. Delay is just another form of test to test your commitment to your goal. Stick with it. Persistence. Push forward. Have an understanding of how things work. That's one of the biggest things that I see when I'm looking at my clients who practice one form of religion or another, is they're expecting God to do for them what they've been given the gift and the capacity to do for themselves. And that's not how God or the universe operates. God has given you a gift and put you here to use that gift to accomplish something. He's never going to rescue you from the giants he sent you to slay. And that's no matter what faith you're claiming, no matter how you're looking at it, the universe will meet you at your level of expectation. And that's where you're going to have to raise your expectations for yourself in order to raise the quality of life that you're living. It's that simple. Now, am I saying it's that easy? Oh, I'm telling you, it's not easy. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. If it was just something you could just speak and then it was, everybody would do it. But it's something that if you apply yourself, you can become a part of the 3% of this world that makes 97% of all the money. You can be the person who will be part of the 1% that makes a positive and lasting impact on the world around you. Remember, success is not about how many zeros you have in your bank account. Actually, how many zeros you have in your bank account is actually a consequence that is subsequent to you living in the fullness of your design, which is actually success. Success. Success is that thing that you discover about when you discover your purpose, discover why you're here, what you should be doing, what meaning you have to life, and what purpose you have assigned to your design, and you set a course of action to live it out, and you're living it out. That's success. Now, you'll find that when you are living it out, there's nothing that will be withheld from you. If you desire wealth, you can have wealth. If you desire a family and a loving family and a great marriage, you can create that. It's hard work, but you can do it. You got to keep in mind, anything that you got your mind set on that is actually worth having, you're going to have to put some work into it. You're not going to get a great body sitting there staring at this picture in a magazine. You're not going to advance yourself in knowledge if you want to be a procurer of knowledge by sitting there wishing. You're going to have to go out and get it. whether you get it from an academic source or you become an organic autodidact that teaches yourself everything that it is that you want to know. That's nothing that can be withheld from you. If you want to know it, it's there. Go get it. You are where you're at because you're who you are. Change who you are and get what you want. Again, not easy, but possible. That's it for today. I'm not going to hold you any longer. Once again, thanks, Craig, for that on the book. I mean, you've got to be able to understand how things work. You can't wish things into existence. You can think things into existence, two totally different things. When you're thinking things in existence, you're controlling your thoughts, which is the first step into controlling your life. So you can think things into existence, but you can't wish them into existence. Wishing is having an idea go through your head, but not engaging it and making it your own, not taking ownership of it and committing to it. That's wishing. Man, it would be nice, but that's just a wish. That's it. As I always say, man, I'm on a down E. Every day I'm waking up and I'm taking the same journey that I'm telling you to take. Every day I'm waking up and I'm searching myself introspectively to search myself out to determine who I am, determine what parts of me needs to develop more, what parts of me needs to change, what parts of me needs to grow, what part of me is holding me back from the next stage of life that I desire to move into. And I search myself. I deal with those issues. I work on those issues. I'm not perfect, not close to it, but every day I'm waking up and I'm going after something. And what I'm trying to get you to do is do the same thing. Wake up every morning knowing what it is you want and spend the day going after it. And finally, this whole life is about giving. It's about pouring into others. It's about elevating and empowering others. It's about taking your gift and using your gift to give light to people who are currently walking in darkness. That's what you're here for. You're here to make the world a better place than it was when you found it. Go make it happen. Love you guys. I'm out. Peace.